two, three, four, five. Welcome to Walk the Line. I'm your host, OG Chris Murray, back at it again with my Dynasty Week 7 Golden Picks. But before we dive into these Week 7 picks, let's recap Week 6. First up, we had SJ and the Houston Texans versus Andy and those LA Chargers. This right here was pretty much self-explanatory. The takeaways was just not enough for the Houston Texans. Brock Osweiler turned the ball over 4 times, but that LA Chargers defense was able to secure them a 27-13 victory over those Houston Texans going into Week 7. Next up, we had my Cleveland Browns versus expert in those Jacksonville Jaguars. This game, man, flat out, the Jacksonville Jaguars defense ruled, causing a total of 8 turnovers, securing them a 19-3 victory over my Browns going into Week 7. Next up, we had Nasty Noop and those Atlanta Falcons versus JB and those Denver Broncos. Nasty Noop was able to pretty much wreak havoc on those Denver Broncos on the road, securing him a 31-9 victory over those Denver Broncos going into Week 7. Next up, we had Hamilton and those Minnesota Vikings versus the Bus and those Chicago Bears. The Bears defense flat out came and balled at home, blowing up that bus, putting a full tank of gas in it, driving them all the way into Week 7 with a 22-13 victory over those Minnesota Vikings. Next up, we had Jay and those Seattle Seahawks versus Chef Scooper and the Arizona Cardinals. Even though Chef Scooper was undermanned, he still figured out how to find some form of hope and pull a 24-16 victory over those Seattle Seahawks going into Week 7. Next up, we had the defending champs, 85 and those New Orleans Saints versus Taz and the Detroit Lions. This pretty much was exactly what the score said. It was a 50-piece McNugget handed out. Addy and those defending champs pretty much put on an offensive showcase, securing them a 52-16 massive win over those Detroit Lions going into Week 7. Next up, we had Kirk and those Green Bay Packers versus Dartmouth and the Tennessee Titans. This game right here was pretty much a flat-out defensive battle, but the Green Bay Packers was able to defeat the Tennessee Titans at home, securing them a 14-8 victory going into Week 7. Next up, we had Westside Pablo and those New York Giants versus Matty Ice and the Philadelphia Eagles. This right here was a game where tensions was boiling, but Matty Ice was able to control his emotions, securing him a home victory, 28-10 over those New York Giants going into Week 7. Next up, we had under 2 rated in the Washington Redskins versus T-Pain and those Tampa Bay Buccaneers. T-Pain was able to seal a deal, giving him his first W of the season with a 35-24 victory over those Washington Redskins going into Week 7. Next up, we had Skill Trade and those Buffalo Bills versus KP and the Kansas City Chiefs. In this game, Mr. Tyreek Hill, after being cleared by doctors to suit up for this game, balled out, going off for a total of 226 yards with 2 receiving touchdowns, securing his team a 45-28 victory heading into Week 7. Next up, we had the big homie in the Cincinnati Bengals versus Rich 215 and the New York Jets. Donald and Anderson was connecting on a level that the chemistry was just perfect in this game. You know, Anderson went off for a total of 151 yards with 2 receiving touchdowns, securing his New York Jets a home victory, 30-12 heading into Week 7. That's the recap for Week 6. So let's dive into these golden picks for Week 7. First up, we have under 2 rating the Washington Redskins versus Westside Pablo and the New York Giants. Both of these teams are coming off tough losses in their Week 6 matchup. Neither one of these users' defense could stop a lick of anything. In this matchup, the Giants have to get Saquon Barkley going. They're facing a defense who gave up a total of 167 yards on the ground to a not-so-talented running back in their Week 6 loss. Vegas has the Giants favored by 4.5 points. I think Vegas got this one right. I'm taking Westside Pablo and the New York Giants at home, getting the W over the Washington Redskins. Next up, we have the LA Chargers and Andy versus skill trading the Buffalo Bills. Defense was the key to the Chargers' victory over the Texans last week. Brock Osweiler still tried to figure out a way how to throw that game away, throwing a total of 4 interceptions. This week, he shouldn't struggle as much. He's facing a team that's ranked 29th in passing yards allowed. Skill tree. Santa brought you an early Christmas present. Brock Osweiler is coming to town. Your defense has to stand up. This guy threw a total of 4 interceptions last week. Get that secondary pumped up. Get your front four pumped up. Try to cause turnovers, and this can be a game. You have to figure out how to make him turn the ball over. But on the offensive side of the ball, you cannot turn the ball over, and you have to protect Wentz. Vegas has Andy and those LA Chargers favored by 8.5 points. I definitely think Vegas got this one right. I'm taking the LA Chargers getting a W going into Week 7. Next up, we have my Cleveland Browns versus Matty Ice and those Philadelphia Eagles. My Browns coming off of a pretty much a devastating loss last week against Expert and those Jacksonville Jaguars. That defense was clicking on all cylinders. This week we face a Philadelphia Eagles team who's blazing hot on both sides of the ball. Number one, most importantly, Matty Ice, he's a good user. He makes you think on the offensive side of the ball just as much as on the defensive side of the ball when you're facing his offense. We have to figure out how not to turn the ball over. This right here is definitely going to be a good game. Vegas has the Eagles heavily favored by 10.5 points at home. I think Vegas definitely got this one wrong. I'm taking my Cleveland Browns on the road, getting a W over the Philadelphia Eagles going into Week 8. Next up, we have Flair and the Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Big Homie and the Cincinnati Bengals. Steelers are coming off of their bye week sitting at 0-5. I think it's time, man, for this team to find new ownership. I guess it went from being a dynasty organization to a dump stop. The Bengals and Baker Mayfield can't seem to figure out how to stop throwing the ball to the other team. Threw 5 pickles last week. This week, he should not struggle at all against this Pittsburgh Steelers defense, who can't seem to figure out how to stop a lick of anything. Vegas has the Big Homie and the Cincinnati Bengals favored by 1.5 points. I think Vegas got this one right. I'm taking the Bengals, getting the W at home, going into Week 8. Next up, we have SJ and the Houston Texans versus Marizi and those Indianapolis Colts. Deshaun Watson better have been studying film all week on that Week 6 matchup against the LA Chargers. He has to enter this game with a different mindset on how to take care of the ball. He cannot expect to turn the ball over 4 times. 4 times. And expect to have his team in a position to win games. You got to take care of the rock, young fella. Marizi, this is a matchup that you must win. This is a divisional game. It's your time to let this division know if you're a contender or a pretender. You're going up against a quarterback who was rattled last week. You cannot let this guy get his flow back. Your defense has to come out and ball. You're home, feed off that home crowd energy, and get this team pumped and going. Vegas has the Houston Texans favored by 3 points. I think Vegas definitely got this one right. Got SJ getting the bounce back W going into Week 8. Next up, we have Nasty Noop and the Atlanta Falcons versus Hamiltop and the Minnesota Vikings. This right here, man, GM Nasty Noop faces his old organization who let him go after not meeting pretty much the franchise standards. You're going up against a team that's banged up, missing key guys, missing the key guy on the offensive side of the ball, which is a plus. Your team has to put your foot on their throat. Just simple as that. You know, you're coming off of a good win last week. You know, your team balled out on both sides of the ball, but you have to figure out how to carry that same level of confidence that you showed in that Week 6 matchup against the Broncos into this matchup. Don't let your emotions get the best of you playing against your old organization. Come out focused. Hamilton, your O-line has to figure out how to protect your rookie quarterback better. They're going up against a hungry front four who knows how to get after the quarterback. And your number one goal this week should be protecting your quarterback if you plan on making this a game. If you don't, this is going to be a very long day out there in Minnesota. Vegas has Nasty Noop and Atlanta Falcons favored by 2.5 points. I definitely think Vegas got this one right. I'm going with the Atlanta Falcons getting a W. Nasty Noop showing that organization that they made the wrong choice letting him go going into Week 8. Next up, we have T-Pain and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus Taz and the Detroit Lions. The Bucs grabbed their first W last week, passing the ball well and running the ball well. But the Lions, they speeded through that McDonald's drive-thru, getting the last 50-piece McNugget of the day. I expect the Lions to come out very aggressive in this matchup at home, shaking that 50-piece McNugget, you know, digested that very well, coming out very hungry in this matchup and very aggressive, passing the ball, going for deep shots very early. Vegas has the Lions favored by 1.5 points. I definitely think Vegas got this one right. After getting that 50-piece McNugget dropped on his head, Taz has to bounce back in this game at home with that Detroit Lions crowd giving them energy, getting the W going into Week 8. Next up, we have Tone and those Oakland Raiders versus JB and those Denver Broncos. Both guys are coming off tough losses. The Raiders played well last week, man. You know, besides the 4 interceptions and the defense giving up 21 points in the second quarter, this team showed some fight. You know, coming back, erasing a 14-point deficit, falling short by only a touchdown. This week, you're facing a team that you know very well. You have the formula. Stick to the basics and get this W. You can't afford to take another loss, man. You can't afford it. In this division, you know every win counts. Especially how this AFC playoff race is shaping up right now. At Week 7, I think this is definitely a must-win game for you. You can't afford to take this loss in this matchup. JB, man, once again I ask this week, can the Denver Broncos team play any worse? You know, like, it's just crazy watching this team play week after week. And the man BS he has to deal with, but after seeing them get smacked around in the 31-9 loss against the Falcons last week, I guess the answer is yes. Vegas has Tone Dog and the Oakland Raiders favored by 4 points. I definitely think Vegas got this one right. I'm taking the Raiders, getting the W going into Week 8. Next up, we have tight work in the Miami Dolphins versus KP and those Kansas City Chiefs. Tight work played a complete football game last week against the Raiders, securing a 35-28 victory. But this week, you face a different beast with the Chiefs and that number one passing offense. You're going to have to figure out how to stop Tyreek Hill, who's coming off of an MVP performance last week, going off for a total of 226 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. You got to get pressure. Facing a shaky O-line who can't figure out how to seem to protect their quarterback. Outside of that, you're sitting right now outside of the pack in the playoff race at 2-3. You got to get this W if you plan on making a run for the playoffs. KP, after coming off of a dominating offensive showcase, the Chiefs' confidence level is through the roof this week. But you can't expect for it to be that sweet this week because you're facing the number 2 passing defense in the DML. Coming into this game, you're going to have to figure out how to protect Patrick Mahomes better. You allowed 7 sacks last week in that Week 6 victory over the Bills, but this week is not going to cut it. It's not going to cut it. You're going to have to figure out how to protect this man. Or if you do not protect him, it's going to be a long day out there in Kansas City. Vegas has the Chiefs favored by 6 points. I think Vegas definitely got this one right. How that Chiefs passing game was blazing last week, I definitely think at home this week it's going to be clicking on all cylinders. Getting the W going into Week 8. Next up, we have King Vitamin and those LA Rams versus Chef Scooper and the Arizona Cardinals. Both teams are entering this matchup with one thing on their minds, man. And you want to know what that is? The off season. Pack it up. This season is over with, man. Both of you guys need to get your draft boards ready. Figure out who this organization is going to draft, what holes y'all going to fill. But this season is pretty much over. Vegas, though, has the Cardinals favored by 0.5 point. I think Vegas got this one right. I'm taking the Arizona Cardinals at home, getting a W over King Vitamin and those LA Rams. Next up, we have C-Rob and the Carolina Panthers versus Kirk and the Green Bay Packers. This right here, man, is going to be, a solid game right here. You got C-Rob and those Panthers sitting at 3-2. You got Kirk and those Green Bay Packers sitting at 5-1. After securing a 14-8 victory, though, last week over the Tennessee Titans, rookie running back Karan Colbert seems to be cooling off after that hot, blazing start. Being slowed down and having cracked that 100 rushing yard barrier in 2 games back-to-back, But this week, it shouldn't be a problem because he's going up against the 29th ranked. My fault. Sorry about that. The 22nd ranked defense against the run. So this definitely should be a game where as though he should get going and get back into that old formula and that old run style that we seen him produce in the early part of the season. C-Rob be coming off of the bye week. Like I said, sitting at 3-2, hold down a wild card slot for the moment. Your front four is going to have to figure out how to play as one. Erase that 22nd run defense out of y'all memory. This week, y'all got to play as if y'all was the number 1 ranked run defense, You have to figure out how to make Colbert a non-factor in this matchup if you want to secure this road victory. Vegas has the Packers favored by 3.5 points. I think Vegas definitely got this one right. I'm going to take Kirk and those Green Bay Packers at home, getting the W, going into Week 8. Next up, we have Rich 215 and the New York Jets versus the Schemer and those New England Patriots. Rich 215, you're coming off of an ugly victory over the Bengals last week. Mr. Sam Darnold seems to can't figure out how to stop turning the ball over, and those turnovers are starting to pile up. But hey, I guess it ain't a problem when you got the number 1 defense only allowing 10 points per game, so I guess it's not an issue. The Schemer, is this your time? You got a good victory. Well, you pretty much balled out last week. Falling short to a top tier DML user by only a touchdown. You're sitting at 3-3. You're facing the top dog in your division. Is this your time? Is this your time? You either going to put up or shut up. Is this New England Patriots team battle tested? This matchup right here will show if you the real deal or you're just a couch potato. Vegas has the New York Jets favored heavily by 10 points in this matchup on the road. Stick skills, I don't think the schemer can go toe-to-toe with Rich 215. I think Vegas got this one right. I'm taking the New York Jets getting the W on the road going into Week 8. Next up, we have the defending Super Bowl champs, 85 and those New Orleans Saints versus the Bus and those Chicago Bears. This right here, ladies and gentlemen, is the game of the week in the dynasty. We have two undefeated teams, both 6-6, going at it this week, man. Somebody will have their first L of the season. And this is going to be electrifying, man. You got the New Orleans Saints, man, who is scary good. After putting up a 50-piece McNugget last week against those Detroit Lions, this team seems to be balling on a whole nother different level. Plus, there's rumors that AK-47 might be suiting up for this game. The bus last week, like I mentioned earlier, man, y'all packed that bus up, y'all filled the tank up, and y'all took that long ride getting the W heading into this Week 7 matchup. This week, man, they're going to have to figure out how to stop this high-powered New Orleans Saints offense, who's averaging a total of 31 points per game. You know, but entering this matchup, your team is ranked third in points. Your defense is ranked third in points allowed, only allowing 10 points per game. You're going to have to figure out how to cut that 31-point average of the New Orleans Saints in half if you plan on making this a matchup. This right here, man, I'm telling you, this is going to be either a close game or a blowout. Vegas have the New Orleans Saints favored by 6 points. Man, this is going to be a good game right here, boy. This is going to be a good game. It's only going to go one or two ways. Either a blowout or it's going to be a close game. I think, man, how this New Orleans Saints team is playing right now, I can't see... I just can't see it. You know, I can't see the Bears getting this victory. So I'm going to have to go with my gut feeling. And I'm going to take the New Orleans Saints getting the W on the road against those Bears, getting the W going into Week 8. Next up, we have HBO and the Dallas Cowboys versus BGs and those Baltimore Ravens. HBO told reporters after their Week 6 victory over the Rams that they're running the table. Pretty much they're not taking another loss this season. How can you blame them? Like, how can you not understand that level of confidence when you got rookie wide receiver Joseph Myers playing like a man possessed, currently sitting number 1 in receiving yards with 780 yards, and also sitting at the top of the list in receiving touchdown with 12. You know, this is a guy, man, that is pretty much 90%, I ain't gonna say 98% of this Dallas Cowboys offense, and he seems to show week after week that he can produce. BGZ, you're coming off of the bye week, having to figure out this puzzle, you know, but your secondary had one thing to say to reporters this week, that y'all ranked number 1 against the pass for a reason. And I agree with that, but it's hard to win games when your offense is only putting up a total of 14 points per game. This game, you know, is going to be another good one. Vegas has the Ravens favored by 3 points. I definitely think Vegas got this one wrong. That Baltimore offense has not shown a spark that I like, to where as though they can win games. Their defense is there. Yes, the defense is there in Baltimore, but their offense is not on the same level right now. So with this pick, I'm going to have to take the Dallas Cowboys getting the W going into Week 8. I'm your host, OG Chris Murray. Those are my golden picks for Week 7. Tune in next events for those Week 8 picks. I'm out.